It's known as the Bountiful Burdekin, a place built on liquid gold and now regarded as one of the richest and most progressive areas in North Queensland, thanks to the hard work and the foresight of its pioneers and the determination of the Green family, founders of the Delta Ironworks, better known as the Brandon Foundry. Today, the foundry is powered by electricity and modern machinery, a far cry from when it was first established in 1906 by Alfred James Green, and the factory was generated by a charcoal-fired furnace.
There was an absolute need for a support from a local foundry situated in the Burdekin, and John Drysdale, a pioneer, I think with the connivance of the other mill managements, encouraged my grandfather to close his foundry on the bank of the creek down in Townsville and set up on 8 or 9 acres that John Drysdale sold to my grandfather, immediately adjacent to the railway line at Brandon, where it is presently situated.
Keith Green, grandson of the founder and now general manager of the complex, well remembers the early days and its successes and challenges.
For the first 20 or so years, after the construction of the foundry and after it got into operation, the amount of work just flowed through quite well. But in time, by about the middle of the 1920s, with communications having vastly increased, and the death of John Drysdale, the local mills began to source competitively their castings in foundries outside the Burdekin area. This created a problem for the Delta Ironworks because its only business really came from the mills.
You did have a rather big disaster in the early part, didn't you, of the operation?
I think it was 1917. There was a fire and the complete operation was burnt to the ground. The only things left standing were the steel furnaces, and the place wasn't insured. It was a devastating period, but being a family business and being supported by a fantastic family infrastructure, the place was rebuilt, it was regenerated, and has survived now for all those years.
The foundry lost a lot of staff through the Depression years, but the war brought a strong demand for munitions and marine equipment, and the workforce grew to nearly 100, working 7 days a week and turning out 7 tons of rough-dressed castings a day.
By the time the war was over, that work dropped off, and very quickly the workforce dropped from the 99 that it had through that period back to less than 20.
In the 1980s, Keith Green took over management and faced a major decision on the foundry's future and the task of rebuilding the operation.
It took 4 or 5 years to get it to that stage, because when I came in it really was a matter of closing it down or regenerating it. It was a matter of investigation, as I've said before, and fortunately I came to the decision that it was too valuable and too important within North Queensland to close it down and walk away from it.
But despite its challenges, the foundry continues on, and while modern machinery had been moved in, it can still rely on equipment in emergencies, such as this veteran 45 horsepower Gardner engine, installed in 1928, and still able to drive the equipment if outside power fails.
The way the power is transmitted from the Gardner out to the machinery that is in use is quite ingenious. It's all done by a drive belt from the Gardner up to a idler pulley And then once the idler pulley is running, by operating this lever here, it activates the line shafting. Once the line shafting is activated, it transmits through the belting to a counter shaft, and then from the counter shaft down into the piece of equipment that has to be powered. And it also is started simply by turning what we could call now a switch. Every piece of equipment in this machine shop and running into the boiler shop was originally powered in this way, because when the place was built in 1906, electricity wasn't available.
The foundry's #1 lathe, operated by machine shop foreman Arthur Cahoon, was once powered by the Gardner, but is now driven by a 245-volt motor drive, which can handle items of up to 2.5 metre diameters. Another unit that tends to heavy-duty machining is this line borer, mainly used for the production of mill brasses. Michael Bloom has the key task of renovating moulding boxes, while Ian Egan, the furnaceman, has the rather warmer job of working on the 300 kilo capacity induction furnace to melt metal.
What Ian, the furnaceman, is doing at the moment is removing the slag from the top of the molten metal. Once that's removed, then it's ready to be poured into a 300 kilo ladle, and from that decanted into the actual individual mould.
It's a testing and intricate task, taking many years to perfect, with Michael quite positive about what is the biggest challenge.
The hardest part, just the heat, just being careful with it, because if you make a mistake you could get injured pretty badly. This is the final process. From here they get packed and go off to whoever's bought them.
And what are you doing here at the moment?
Well, we're actually dressing the fin off this coupling. From the inside around the outside. My mate over here is cutting them off from the original large block, and I'm doing the finishing work on this primer here.
Another important section is the pattern shop, where Robert Green is working on the pattern for a bearing housing for a pump, while specially processed salt-free sand is used for the moulds. The sand must be dry and all dust is extracted before it's used for the mould, while CO2 gas is injected to make the sand harder. Well, how do you see the future of the foundry?
It's beginning to get to be a unique situation, and the Delta Ironworks is now equipped into the future, training its own staff from local sources to meet the requirements, which will increase in importance as time goes on. It has a wonderful future, and it is structured now and capitalised now to meet that future and to take advantage of the future that's ahead of it.